Good afternoon and good evening, everyone, depending on the place from where you are joining us for this live session. My name is Richa and I work as Education Support Manager at ACCA. Our session today is designed to support you with a strategic business reporting paper where expert tutor will share his insights to help you with your preparation for exam. And this webinar will be covering December 23 examiner's report using technical examples and giving you quick tips which will further help you during your exam practice. You will have an opportunity to ask your questions live. An expert will be providing the answers to the most asked questions. And I am very pleased to be joined by our expert tutor, Tom Clanton. Hi, Tom.
Hi, Richard. Thank you.
Before I hand over to Tom, I would like to cover a few housekeeping items very quickly with all of you. At the bottom of your screen, there are a number of buttons which you can use. There is a help icon on the left which provides resources and information to help you resolve any technical issues you might experience. Icons for the slides and media player are also there. You will need to see both of them during the webinar, so make sure you have selected them. There is attendee chat function also, which will help you engage with fellow webinar attendees, and that is the icon on the right-hand side. And a resource list that looks like a file symbol. If you click on this, you will be able to access resources relevant to today's webinar, including the direct links. You can rearrange your screen to suit you and resize the windows if you need to. And if at any point you are not able to hear us, what we are saying, or you cannot see any visuals, please do refresh your browser. Registering for this webinar means you will be sent an email tomorrow with details on how you can listen to it again. So do not worry if you miss something or you have any technical issue, you will be able to access the recording. I am handing over to Tom in a moment and will be back with you towards the end of the session. In the meantime, if you like to ask ACCA or Tom a question, then please click on Q&A button, which is the middle icon at the bottom of your screens. Please note, we cannot guarantee responding to everyone directly, either verbally or via web chat, but we hope that the questions we share will be helpful to everyone. Over to you, Tom.
Thank you very much indeed. And thank you everyone for attending, those of you who are attending live and those of you who are watching on the recorded version. I'm assuming that you're here because you are wanting to pass SBR in March, and that's really what I've got in mind. So happy Valentine's Day, everybody. Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. My true love is, of course, ACCA and SBR. Those of you who don't know me, I am an ACCA member. And that means that I did these exams myself. When I was studying, I was working, and I was newly married, and I was juggling responsibilities. So I do remember what it was like. Yeah, it's tough, and it's tough for you. All right. So we're all in the same boat here. I've been there. I've spent my career basically teaching ACCA. Spent a lot of happy years, the golden years at Kaplan, but I left 10 years ago now. And I spent a number of years working abroad. The ACCA qualification is a fantastic qualification. You know, I've done several different things with it in terms of my career, in terms of working overseas, working in the public sector, academic, and now effectively I work for myself through the FME Learn Online process. But this is not about me. This is about me helping you, get ready for the March exam. And just that little symbol there at the bottom, podcasts. Something that I do in my spare time is I podcast all about SBR. If you haven't found my podcast on Spotify, on Google, on Apple, search them out. Yeah, they're very good. So we've got an hour, and I want to talk to you about the most recent examiner's report and use that as a inspiration to deep dive into some of the things that can annoy the examiner, or some of the things that you can do to please the examiner. And towards the end, we're going to have a live Q&A session, and I'll be looking at the questions that have been posted, and I'll be addressing anything you want to ask me at the end of the session. Okay, so there will be a good 20 minutes left. For the avoidance of any doubt, the SBR exam has 4 questions to it, and there's a certain style, or there is a certain theme around each question. Question 1 is on groups, not exclusively. There could be financial instruments, there could be pensions, there could be anything in question 1, but it will be on groups. You will be given either balance sheet, cash flow, or P&L, either in a pre-populated form, and there will be a requirement for 10, 12, 14 marks to number crunch and update that pre-populated spreadsheet. I'll say this again later, but it's essential that you become familiar with the unique or particular way that group accounts are examined. Ethics always comes up. Your ethical pillars, you must know, but be able to apply them. And if you apply them well, and we can talk about that a little bit later, you can pick up extra professional marks. Question 3 and question 4 are on your accounting standards. Question 4 has a particular focus perhaps on explaining things to investors. And if that is done well, you pick up again 2 more professional marks. So there's 96 technical marks available. That's far more than any other strategic professional exam. They all have 20 professional marks, but SBR has only 4 professional marks. So it is a technical paper. It has to be recognized for that. My inspiration for the main part of the presentation is a reflection piece and a highlighting of the examiner's report. Now, the examiner is not an individual. The examiner is a team of people, and because of social media, whatever, and they're not out there, but we can listen to their voice. We can understand where they're coming from because of the examiner's report. So it is a way of getting to know the examiner. And if you haven't done so already, I would encourage you, please, to seek out and read this examiner's report, as well as the previous ones. I said just now that 96 of the marks are technical. But in order to get those marks, you've got to answer the question in a precise way. Because if you answer the question obliquely and in a waffle way, it's not going to happen. You're going to run out of time. So the examiner wants you to be direct. And that is arguably a non-technical skill. Yeah, a well-constructed answer, yeah, doesn't need a lot of waffle, doesn't need a large amount of words. And so what I want to do is to actually demonstrate to you how you can earn marks in a concise and precise way. And what I'd like you to do is to read this question with me. The parent has bought a sub. No non-controlling interest, 100%. The consideration is 100 million. The assets are 80, therefore the goodwill is 20. So the question's already pre-calculated the goodwill. Maybe that's a figure in the pre-populated spreadsheet. 80 million's been done already, maybe. But there's a twist. The sub's developed its own brand. And the carrying value of that brand is nil. So the subsidiary hasn't got a figure in its books for the brand. If that brand came to be sold, a competitor would be prepared to pay 5 million for it, but the parent company is going to throw it away. The parent company is not going to use the brand. And in arriving at the 80 million, the brand was not included. Okay? The brand was not included. It had a carrying value of nil. Now, the requirement of the question is to discuss the accounting treatment of the brand in the accounts of the sub and by the group on acquisition. And that's a curious word, and I've highlighted it very deliberately because it kind of splits the question down. It says, actually, this is not one question, it's two questions. Deal with it in the accounts of the sub and discuss with it in the accounts of the group. It enables me to make two starts to the question. Now, there's an attendee chat. And I've just put in there in the attendee chat, hello. All right? We've got 5 marks. If we've got 5 marks, we should be trying to say 5 things. And we should also be trying to do it within a time frame. And that time frame, if it's 5 marks, is something like 8, 9, 10 minutes. Let's say 9 minutes. What do you think of the first start of the question? And the first start of the question is, discuss the accounting treatment of the brand in the accounts of the sub. Do you think the sub has ignored the brand? The sub, in its individual financial statements, hasn't recognized the brand. Do you think that is right or wrong? If you think the sub is correct, can you put the letter Y, S? If you think the sub is incorrect and should have recognized the brand, can you put in the letter N for no? So from the sub's point of view, from the sub, is the sub correct or is the sub wrong in what they do? Vanessa is saying that the answer is yes. So she agrees the sub should not be recognized there. Yeah, Raza, they have ignored it. Mikhail agrees. Yeah? This is fantastic. This is fantastic. They are, Ibrahim, they are right. They cannot capitalize. This is fantastic. You are demonstrating to me that you have good technical knowledge of ISA 38, because the correct answer is yes. The correct answer is that the subsidiary, should not be recognizing the brand in its own accounting records. So the sub is correct. It's prohibited. Now, you don't need to write the name of the accounting standard. That gets you 1 mark. What about the group? What about the group? Is the group correct? Is the group correct? Is the group correct? Yes or no? Because the group have also ignored the existence of the brand. So is that the correct thing for the group to have done? Oh, Raza, fantastic answer. Yeah, fantastic answer. Thomas is saying the group's got it wrong. Sophie's saying the group's got it wrong. Hannah's saying the group's got it wrong. Winston's saying the group's got it wrong. This is a strong cohort. Absolutely, the group has got it wrong. And Winston even comes up in anticipation of the next part of the question. Yeah? In the group accounts, the brand should be recognized as a consolidation adjustment. Why? I don't just say the answer, but I justify the answer. Each time I've justified it. Yeah? The sub is correct. Why? Because it's prohibited per the standard. You don't need to know ISA 38. In the group accounts, it is recognized because it is an identifiable asset with a fair value. How many marks out of 5, how many marks out of 5 do you think I have earned to date? How many marks? I haven't earned 5. How many marks? How many marks do you think I've earned to date? How many marks do you think I've earned to date? Oh, Holly, I love you. Thank you. Happy Valentine's Day. Yeah. Hannah, 3. I think you're a little bit generous there, Hannah. Zoe's on the money. Yeah. Aquil's on the money. Because I think I've said 2 things. I agree with Joe. I agree with Michelle. I think I have earned 2 marks. Pauline, 33. Not 33. You must have thick fingers. So I think it's only worth, for me, it's only worth 2 marks. And if I want to get the next mark, and that's going to get me a pass, because if I get 3 out of 5, happy days, that's 60%. If I want to get the next mark, I think I want to start talking about the fair value. All right? I've thrown in the word fair value. I can define the fair value. Now, defining the fair value is not about saying the fair value is the amount which you would expect to receive on the sale of an asset in an orderly transaction between informed and willing, between market participants. No. We can be succinct and direct. Fair value is the market value. It's what the asset can be sold for. In other words, it's not entity specific. Asif is perfectly correct when he says it's IFRS 13, but you don't need to quote that. You don't need to quote that. So fair value is the market value. What do you think the goodwill figure is? Yeah, what do you think how much do you think the goodwill figure is going to be? Because it's not 20. Not 20. We're going to have to change that goodwill figure. Yeah, what do you think the goodwill figure should actually be? What's the number of the goodwill figure? Yes, yes, Camilla, you are. You're increasing the fact, you're decreasing the goodwill. So how much will the goodwill figure be? 15. Yes, Amu, 15. You are correct. Munir, you are correct. Anna, no. The net assets are going up to 85. So if the net assets are going up to 85, the goodwill comes down to 15 because goodwill is the balancing figure. So recognizing the brand increases the net assets and reduces the goodwill figure to 15. This is now worth 80%. This is now in prize winning territory. If I carry on, I'm showing off. Yeah? Perhaps good exam technique is to say, that's enough. Alice, well done. That's absolutely correct. Well done, Fiona. Nice to see you here. So, how could I get the 5th mark? How could I get the 5th mark? You're recognizing in the group accounts a brand which we are not going to sell. We're not going to sell the brand and we're not going to use the brand. So if you're in the group accounts, what's the buzzword? What's your thought process around the brand now that we've got it in the books at 5? What are you going to do with it thereafter? Amortize it, revalue it? What's the one buzzword that you would now that would get you 5 out of 5 for this answer? Yeah, we are creating the intangible asset. Yes, we are creating an intangible asset. Oh, Mina's got it. Mina's got it. Yeah, Hannah, you do impair the goodwill. I was talking about the brand. And Amamula is correct. Carlo is correct as well. Holly is correct. The key word I'm looking for the brand is basically, we're going to write it up. This brand is useless to me as a group. The examiner wants you to write in short, sharp, simple sentences. The examiner does not want long, regurgitated, formal definitions. The examiner does not want the name and number of the accounting standard regurgitated like a parrot. This is an acceptable, professional way to earn 5 marks. It is succinct language. It is spaced. When I have felt I have earned a mark, I have moved on and created a challenge for the marker. So the marker comes in, is this worth a mark? 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 Yes, I've used an abbreviation, FV, but I did say what it was before, fair value. It's technically correct, and it's answering the question. All right? So it's not impossible. You would have 10 minutes to produce an answer like this. Fiona, there is an active market. By definition, the brand could be sold to competitors. In the question itself, the brand could be sold to competitors. So we're determining the fair value of that. So we are able to observe that. We're able to bring it into the account. But because we're not going to sell it, we're going to write it off. Now, question 1 is the pre-populated spreadsheet. So if the question had goodwill of 20 in the balance sheet, you would be minusing 5 away from the goodwill and you'd be adding 5 to the brand. That would be the initial adjustment. But because the brand doesn't have a recoverable amount, you're not going to sell it and you're not going to use it, you would then need to write off the brand through the P&L, and ultimately that means the retained earnings goes down by 5 because it's 100% owned sub. Had it been an 80% owned sub, 20% of that 5, i.e. 1, would have been charged against the NCI. So think pre-populated spreadsheets. Yeah? Think how that would be adjusted in there. I am moving on. And I'm moving on because every single examiner's report I have ever read talks about time management. And so often in SBR, the examiner writes time and time and time again about how question 1 is overrun. There appears to be too much detail, too much time, and this destroys time management. This destroys the student's ability to pass the exam. You don't have to do question 1 first. I've said this for a long time, and it's refreshing to see in the examiner's own words, he puts out the idea that you don't have to do question 1 first. Possible, if you want to do question 2 first, if that's going to help your time management. You've got the ACCA pre-mock to do. Everybody's got the ACCA pre-mock to do. Maybe they can practice their time management skills. Practice answering the question and think about the order. Go into the exam with a plan. Yeah, you don't read the whole exam, you go in with a plan. I'm going to do question 2 first, you go straight to question 2. You must be prepared for question 1. The examiner has been disappointed. He's been a little bit acid or a little bit sharp with a minority of students who don't seem to have practiced or to be aware. Now, I hope that's not the case for us, but for the avoidance of any doubt, yeah, to kind of raise the standard, I'm going to be making sure that you are familiar with the format. All right? 5 seconds. Can you just read the information on the slide, please, whilst I have a cup of tea? You're probably hoping for a balance sheet, but it could be a P&L, or it could again be a cash flow. What adjustment would you make if the parent had sold the subsidiary goods for 10 and there was a provision for unrealized profit of 1 required? Now, instead of using the chat for this one, what I'm going to do is ask you a poll. So providing the technology works, in a moment, you'll see a poll appearing. Now, let me tell you what the question is, all right? You don't need a calculator. What's the gross profit going to be? What's the gross profit going to be after you've adjusted for the fact the parent has sold goods to the sub for 10 and there's a PUT? Because ultimately, if you know what the adjusted group gross profit is going to be, then you would have presumably been able to process the numbers correctly. So here is the poll coming up. And I would like you, please, in the next 20 seconds, to give me an answer, which is either A, B, C, or D. And I can see only a few people. The gross profit was 150. Gross profit was 150. We'd sold 10 between the parent and the sub, and there'd been a provision for unrealized profit of 1. Now, this is exciting for me because I can see people are submitting their answers, but at this stage, I can't see what the answers are. If you're not sure, I don't know, put D, I suppose. I'm going to count to 5, and when I finish counting to 5, it's game over. Yeah? So, yes now, or forever hold your peace. 5, 3, 4, 2, 1, 5, going, gone. Yes. Yes. Yeah, the vast majority of you, 2/3 of you, got this answer correct. Fantastic. You are, yeah, making me a very happy person on Valentine's Day. The intercompany sale would be eliminated, and that's a -10 against the sales. You would also be eliminating the intercompany purchase. Now, I need to be very, 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 very specific. Because the cost of sales is a minus number, and you want to make that minus number smaller, you are effectively adding 10 to the cost of sales. So the adjustment must be plus or minus correct. Yeah? Now, when you start dealing with the PUP, you've got to reduce the profit. If you're reducing the profit, you're increasing the cost of sales. Spot on. In an exam scenario, the marks that you get, you don't do a total column. Life is too short for a total column. There are no marks for the total column. So this could well be worth 2 or even 3 marks in a marking guide because we put 3 different numbers into our pre-populated spreadsheet. And it may well be that in an exam, you might have to calculate that part. All right? -10 plus 10 to reduce the 240 down. So there's the answer. I'm very happy. I'm moving on. Don't get caught out. Learn from the mistakes of others. Don't get caught out. Yeah? Be prepared. I've been teaching a long time. I can remember when group foreign currency came up 3 times on the trot. Just because cash flow came up last time doesn't stop it coming up again this time. Be prepared. Be prepared. And when you're doing cash flow, just like in the P&L, you've got to be plus minus savvy. You've got to be plus minus savvy. Yeah? This is what the examiner said in his report. A significant number of answers failed to present the answers, the adjustments with the correct signage. And therefore, they failed to score marks for these entries. So sad. So frustrating. Relatively, what I would say, easy marks gone begging. So we're going to do some examples. Yeah, we're going to do some examples. Which is correct. So hang on, let me set it up. Cash flow, operating activities, indirect method, reconciling profit at the top, yeah, the cash at the bottom. So you're adding back depreciation. It's that section. Now you're having to deal with the changes in the working capital. And inventory has gone up. Inventory has gone up. Are we doing option 1 minus 100? Or are we doing option 2 plus 100? Please key in to the chat, 1 or 2? James says 1. James is quick on the ball. Zihan says 1. Yeah. Antonia says 1. Okay, fantastic. A lot of people here going for 1. Yeah. And I like the answer 1 as well, because if you increase your inventory, that's bad for cash flow. You've spent money buying stock. It doesn't affect the profit. So if you're reconciling profit to cash, an increase in inventory is a minus. Second one, debtors. Debtors. Debtors are going down. Debtors are going down. If debtors are going down, is it option 1 or option 2? Debtors are going down. Suzanne says it's option 1. Anna says it's option 1. James says it's option 1. Yeah. Elena says it's option 1. The majority of people, Matthew says it's option 1. The majority of people are going with option 1. Thomas says it's option 1. Option 1 is correct. Because if your debtors go down, you've received cash, so cash has gone up, but it doesn't affect the profit. So yeah, this is good. Decrease in payables. Sorry, increase in payables. Increase in payables. If there's an increase in payables, option 1 or option 2. You take the red pill, blue pill. Increase in payables. Increase in payables. Option 1 again is running to be. Tasmin thinks it's option 1. Diana thinks it's option 1. Yeah. Majid thinks it's option 1. Geraldine thinks it's option 1. And indeed, it is again option 1. Because if you increase your trade payables, you've effectively benefited from the cash flow from that because you haven't paid in cash. It doesn't affect your profit. So absolutely. So well done. So maybe it's not a true sample, but those of you who seem to be answering, the vast majority of you were getting that right. And that's very heartening for me. Well done. Well done indeed. Ethics. Do not regurgitate in your ethical parts, what the principles are. That doesn't earn you marks. Marks are earned for applying the ethical principles. All right? And that means taking the information from the question. This was part of the requirement of the question. I love the examiner. Look, it's Valentine's Day. I love SBR and I love the examiner. I love the examiner. You might not love the examiner. I don't know, but I do because of this type of requirement. He's broken it down. Your explanation should cover definition, aggregation, identification. So your answer should have 3 subheadings: definition, aggregation, identification. But he says in his report, many candidates struggle to separate their answer into 3 areas. Learn from other people's mistakes, please. Learn from other people's mistakes, please. Not only do I love the examiner, not only do I love SBR, but I love financial instruments too. Yeah? It's a core area. I'm sorry. You cannot go into the exam hoping it won't come up. All right? There are resources out there. Go to the ACCA's pages. Find the technical articles and topic explainers. Impairment, debt and equity. Yeah? You'll find resources there. Go to Study Hub. There's no excuse. The resources are there. Time management. I've got to allow time for your questions and answers. I will be doing so. the last thing on the agenda. Question 4 is the last thing on the agenda. It's the worst done question. And it's not because it's the hardest, it's just because it's called question 4. It feels very sorry for itself. This was the question, and those who attempted the question often scored well because they were able, because they knew something. They were able to answer it. But the sad, sad, sad thing is that so many students didn't attempt this at all. If you're going to pass this exam, you need to be marked out of 100. If you're marked out of 80, I'm sorry, you're going to fail. Statistically, you've got to accumulate 50 marks. Being marked out of 100 is the way to go. If you try and do 50 marks only and try and get every single mark out of the 50 and only do 2 questions, everyone will fail. You get that. You need to be marked out of 100. Top tips. Short, sharp, quick. What does JMO stand for? 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 What does JMO stand for, please? Does anybody know? I'm looking at the chat. Does anybody know? Thank you. Thank you, Jahal. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, Fiona. Thank you, Tasmin. Thank you, Michelle. I will take your advice. Thank you, Elvin. I will just move on. You gain more marks at the beginning of the next part of the next question than you do by squeezing out. Learn your tables, because time management is key. All right? If it's 10 marks, you've got 18 minutes. If it's 5 marks, you've got 9 minutes. Cover everything. And yes, that includes cash flow. And yes, that includes financial instruments. RTQ before ATQ. So before you answer the question, you have to read the question. Or as my tutor used to tell me, RTFQ, they said to me, RTFQ, yeah? Read the full question, all right? Make sure you read the requirement first, yeah? Another session. Apples, apples, apples. Don't be a parrot. Don't be a parrot, yeah? Application, application, application. Answer the question that is being very, very specifically set. It'll be unique. So if you're remembering something from a previous question, it's probably going to be wrong, because it's, by definition, it's a different question. It's a different question. You're all going to do the pre-mock. You're all going to do the pre-mock. If you're not going to do the pre-mock, crazy guy, crazy lady. Do you know when the pre-mock is available from? Do you know when the pre-mock is available from? I'm hoping you do. This is a little quiz. Oh my goodness me. Only half of you got the answer right. It's available now. It's been up there for 48 hours. How come half of you didn't know that? Hey, that's something you can do tonight. That's something you can do tomorrow. You can do the pre-mock. Yeah? And when is the debrief video? When is the YouTube video going to be released? Do you know? Yeah? Do you know? when the release date is going to be? It's already live. The mocks are out there for you to do. Essential practice. But do you know when the debrief? Because, you know, I debrief question 1, the pre-populated spreadsheet. Oh, there's some more answers coming through. You're going to have to be quick. Well done, well done. Yeah, you're going to have to wait 48 hours before you see the answers, before you see the debrief answers. All right. You can, of course, gain access to the answers when you do the self-marking by going through by completing the exam, exiting the exam, and doing the self-marking. You then see the answers there as well. Now, I have 20 minutes left in order to answer your questions. And I have a series of wonderful questions that have already been asked. Elizabeth asks, what's the best advice to cover current issues? Okay, what's the best advice to cover current issues? Strictly speaking, there are no examinable exposure drafts. So strictly speaking, current issues is an old language. I would think of them as investor focus. You know, investors are confused about cryptocurrencies. Investors are confused about sustainability reports. Have a look at the articles published by ACCA on the website. Don't obsess about current issues. And if something comes up that you're not sure what the accounting treatment should be, because it's a new situation, fall back on your conceptual framework, fall back on your principles. Hassim asks, what do you do if a question comes up on a standard that you know less about, i.e. just the basics? How would you answer the question? Thank you, Hashim. I think that's a very honest question. I've got 2 different answers. Part of me says, we've still got 3 weeks, 4 weeks to go before the exam. And therefore, make sure that you know something about every standard, even government grants, yeah, even investment properties, even those small little accounting standards, even segmental reporting. Have something up your sleeve that you can write about. But yes, Hassim, within the question, you allude to what I think is the right answer. You may not be getting 5 out of 5 if it's coming up on a weak area, but you need to get 1 out of 5 or 2 out of 5. You need to salvage something from every part of every question. Don't just regurgitate your definition. Read the requirement, use the information within the question, do your best, and then JMO. JMO. Right, what other questions have we got? For the UK exam, does the current issues, for the UK exam, does the current issues investor focus get removed? No, I think what you'll find, Nicholas, those of you who are doing the UK or the Irish variant need to know everything that the international students, the students doing the international variant, need to know. So the international variant is by far and away the most common version of the exam that students sit. But if you need a practicing certificate, then there's an additional amount of information that students need to learn to do the UK variant. And they also then have to go on and do the AAA variant. And there are some resources there which are freely available on my podcast. I did a session on my podcast, which you can find, I'm sure, through Google. And you can also find it on the Study Hub. There's an additional set of material there about the UK. And of course, mock exams. If you look at question 3 on the mock exams, you'll find that in the mock exams, the ACCA published the UK variant. So look at question 3. So Chang says, I was told that you don't need to mention the standard you are applying to the exam so long as the treatment in the question is correct. Is this true? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. When you're dealing with a client, when you're dealing with somebody explaining things, they need to know the truth. You don't need to know the reference, where it's come from. Life is too short. Please, you don't have to memorize. You don't have to memorize loads of stuff. Right, Roxana, what's the best way to use the 15 minutes reading time? Time out. There's no 15-minute reading time. You've just got 3 hours and 15 minutes to do the exam. Do not start the exam by reading it for 15 minutes. That would give you a headache. That would demoralize you. That would be inefficient. Have a plan. Question 1, maybe. Question 2, probably. Whatever. Have a plan. I'm going to do question 2 first. Don't even read question 1. Don't even read question 3. Go to question 2. Read it. Read the requirement first. And you'll find that often the requirement says, in order to answer part A, you don't need to look at the appendices. You don't need to look at the additional information on the left-hand side. Or it may say, in order to answer part A, you've got to refer to the appendix. You've got to refer to the information on the left-hand side. Yeah, exhibit number 1. So if it says A, look at exhibit number 1. All you need to do is read A, blurb at the beginning, read A and read exhibit 1. Therefore, you don't read exhibit 2 and 3 in order to answer part A. Roxana, you should be starting keying in data to answer the exam within 3 or 4 minutes of you logging in. Yeah, you've read all of the instructions before, so you don't need those 10 minutes. You've read all of the instructions before. You start the exam. Yeah, and you be aggressive. Yeah, you don't sit there. In other words, recap, don't sit there thinking, oh, I've got 15 minutes to read. I won't make a start. 15 minutes. I'll just read. Oh, and then I read, oh, I don't understand that. Or then I'll read a bit more. Oh, I don't understand that. Or I'll read a bit more. Oh, crumbs, it's going to be a difficult exam, isn't it? No. Crack on. Precious says, what happens when you write enough points to earn all the marks in the question, but there is an extra wrong mark? Okay. Let's imagine you were asked for 3 marks to discuss or to explain the benefits to an investor of sustainability reporting, of regulation on sustainability reporting. 3 marks. Now, the marking guide will have 1 mark per valid point. If you make 3 valid points, you'll get 3 marks. If you make 4 valid points, you'll get 3 marks. If you make 3 valid points and 1 nonsense, you'll get 3 marks. There are no negative marks. You don't get marks taken away for doing something wrong. In fact, you can do something wrong, but potentially still earn marks with the own figure rule. So if you're doing an impairment review on goodwill and you've calculated goodwill incorrectly, you can still get the marks for the impairment, even though mathematically the impairment will be wrong because the goodwill is wrong. You don't get penalized following through. So when you write enough to earn all of the marks, you will get all of the marks. But don't try and say 5 things if it's only worth 3 marks. Tailor the length of your answer to the information. Hazik, what would you suggest on how we attempt each practice, past or mock exam? Attempt in full, like the live exam. Okay. You certainly need to do full exams. You certainly need to do under time pressure 4 questions back to back to back to back to build up your stamina. And to understand the time management. But I'm not going to be shaming anybody who doesn't do that every time. If you've done a day's work, and you come home and you've got to eat, maybe you've got to say hello to your husband or hello to your kids or hello to your wife or whoever you live with, you might not have 3.25 hours to do a full mock. What you might have is enough time to do one question properly and then to review it and then to go over it. It's not just a question of doing it, it's then a question of reflecting on how well you've done and reading around it. So if you're working of an evening or working of a morning, maybe some of you should not be revising in the evening. Because in the evening, maybe you're tired. Maybe some of you should be revising in the morning and going to work tired. Ooh. You know yourself. You know yourself. You know your circumstances. You've got a working day to fit in. When are you studying? Yeah? After work or before work? I merely put it to you that most people study after work, but if you could study before work, set the alarm early, get into the office early, do some work first thing. I like to exercise first thing in the morning. Went swimming this morning. Makes me feel good. Sets you up for the day, knowing that you've got that under your belt. So, right, okay, I'm powering through these questions. I'm trying to get through as many as possible. Chanchel says, any tips for solving the pre-populated spreadsheet question? Yes. Any tips for solving the pre-populated question? Pre-populated spreadsheet question? Yes. Do the pre-mock. Yeah? Practice. It's a little bit unsophisticated to say so, but yeah, make sure you understand that you're not interested in the total column. Make sure you don't put in fancy formula and stuff. The marker it's 1 mark. You're dropping a number in to the adjustment column. It's either, and really think whether it's plus or minus. If it's plus, you don't have the right plus. You just put it in as a number. But if you're wanting it to reduce, you have to show a minus. Yeah, and you understand that. Geraldine, you mentioned while writing this exam, whilst you're working and juggling other personal commitments, please, how do you best advise on maximizing 3 weeks to work to tight schedules? Stuff. Now, Geraldine, I don't know your shoe size. I don't walk in your shoes. All right. I don't know whether you live alone. I don't know whether you have responsibilities, family members, or vice versa. What I would say to you is that I hope you have a support network. And maybe you can communicate with your loved ones, your family and your friends and say, I've got an exam in 3 weeks' time. This is really important to me. Can someone else do the shopping? Can someone else do the cleaning? Can I have food provided for me? I know I normally see you on a Tuesday night and we go out, but I'm not going to make it this Tuesday. Can you get the buy-in of your friends? Now, maybe you should go out on Tuesday night because all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. And you don't want to lose it towards the end, yeah, with stress. So one way of maximizing the weeks with tight schedules is to get the buy-in of your loved ones, to have a plan, yeah, to have a plan and build into that plan rest. All right, because you cannot, one of your loved ones, in inverted commas, yeah, Valentine's Day, remember the theme, Valentine's Day, one of your loved ones might be your boss, might be your co-workers, yeah, so you may be working on a project with someone and you shift that deadline so it's the exam? Can they do a bit of extra work? Can you rob Peter to pay Paul? Yeah. So that's some general advice. I hope some of that resonates with you and with other people. Right. Trillo, should we read all of the technical articles? I find it difficult to say no, but equally, reading is a relatively passive thing, and your priority should be practicing exam questions at this stage of the game. Your knowledge during the tuition phase, you're gaining the knowledge. In the revision phase, you're learning how to get it out. So dip into the articles. Dip into the articles. If you have a train journey, if you have insomnia, dip into them, speak with them, have a look at them. They're good. They're good. All right. And sometimes, not always, sometimes after the event, you realize that, a question has drawn on some aspect of it, but I can't tip and I can't say one article is better than the other. Work on your own weaknesses. If you've got a blind spot around, deferred tax, for example, go on the website, you'll find a good article on deferred tax. I know because I wrote it. How are we doing? How are we doing? We're nearly there. We've got another couple of minutes. Let's see if I can. The ones, Semra, the ones which are newly published, don't read into that. Do not assume just because something is newly published, it's about to come up. You've got 4 exam sittings a year. 4 exam sittings a year. There's more than one version of the exam set. You can't just make that, oh, this one was recently published, therefore it's coming up. There's no correlation. I wouldn't do that if I were you. IFRS 9 is tough. Yeah, Shisan, it is tough. Have a look at the resources, as I talked about on the ACCA technical articles and explainers, and go over it. Try and break down that topic. It's partly about financial liabilities. It's partly about financial assets. It's partly about derivatives. Don't try and think of it as one topic. Try and think of it as a number of different companies, different topics. Fen Ying, yes, when you're answering a question, you can remove the company. You can simply refer to it as Luna rather than Luna Company. Absolutely, you can. I think I have answered my last question, and I think it's probably appropriate for us to be winding up this session. What do you think, Risha? What do you think? Do you think we should wind it up now?
Thanks, Tom. I hope I am audible.
You are audible.
Great. Okay, that's great. Really, you have been able to cover quite many questions from what is being asked, and I believe most of the common questions are coming in likewise. So thank you very much, all the students, for joining in this session, especially on this paper, strategic business reporting. And now we need to bring things to close. And but before that, I would like to remind you all about the important resources that are updated in the resource section of the webinar. Pick the links, especially which refer to pre-March 2024 mock and debrief support, examiner reports, technical articles, and topic explainers. So remember, everyone who has registered for this session will be getting an email with details of how they can listen to it again. A big thank you to Tom, the team who supported us in delivering this session successfully, and also to all the students for your participation. Wish you all the very best for your exams. Thank you. Bye.